I'll bring this meeting to order. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are on land that has been inhabited by Anishinaabe nations. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Sagamok Anishinaabe, and we would like to give thanks for sharing this land. Whereas there is a quorum of council present and the time is 6 p.m., be it resolved that the regular meeting be open for business at the Massey District Community Center and Arena, and that the minutes of the regular meeting of October 26, 2022 be approved. Moved by Pat, seconded by Cheryl. Be it resolved that the following be added to the regular agenda. B1, Fire Chief's Report for October 2022. Have a mover for that, please. Kevin and Pat. Thank you. I guess I have to ask all in favor, right? Sorry about that. So do I have to back up that last one?
No.
Okay. All in favor of this addition? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay. Be it resolved that the council meeting is now adjourned for the purpose of the opening of the quarter revision for municipal drainage. We need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Kevin and Edie. All of those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Sorry.
We'll do the court of revision now. You want to, the three members, Kevin Burke, Edith Fairburn, and Dale Rivers, if you want to appoint a chair, we can move forward with the court of revision. In favor of
I think we're happy with Kevin, Chairman.
I'll accept.
Thank you.
So, with that,
So we'll pass this, we'll read this motion first so we get a,
Okay.
between the three of you and we'll
Okay.
second it.
Thank you. Be it resolved that Kevin Burke is appointed Chair of the Quarter Revision.
So those, the court of revision, so Edie will.
Okay. And I'll second it.
Okay.
Can I second?
Sure.
Okay. And I'll second that motion. All in favor of that?
So this is just the court of revision.
Thank you.
These three members.
And sign this.
Yeah, so I'll go to Kevin for this.
Thank you very much.
be it resolved that the agenda for the quarter revision be approved, and have a mover, Edie, and
It's just the court of revision. Just the members.
Edith and Dale, all in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that Ann Whalen is appointed as Secretary of the Court of Revision. Could I have a mover?
Second.
Second, Dale, all in favor? Carried. So for the purpose of the court of revisions to hear appeals regarding the engineer's report dated June 1st, 2022 for the Massey drain and the Dixon drain. No appeals from any party other than those affected by the court's decision will be heard at this time. Written appeals to the court of revision on assessments for the Massey drain and Dixon drain, we've had none received. So with that, we'll proceed to the engineer's oral submission.
Thank you, Chair. Please present for the Massey-Dixon drain. Just a little bit explanation about the drain act. I'm sure you might have some knowledge of it. Municipal drains are basically communal drainage systems. They're based on a watershed basis. It's been used, the act dates back to about the 1830s in Ontario. It mostly deals with private and public lands. It allows basically upstream landowners to drain through downstream landowners' property. And due to its nature, it's a communal system that, again, has private and public lands. Well, these drains are all originally petitioned by landowners because they have a drainage problem. And there's an area requiring drainage, and there's a majority of that area that actually move these drains forward. The Massey and the Dixon drain date back to Massey drain to 1977, and the Dixon drain 1985 when they were originally put in place. Since that time, there's been some changes in the watershed, and we did a section 76 to update the assessment schedules. Subsequent to that, it was brought to my attention that there were some errors in my schedules. And that was brought to my attention because there was a section 65, a couple of the properties were being severed. And we noticed that we couldn't sever them because the areas were incorrect, or the benefits, they were put into wrong portions of the drain. So since we noticed that it was my mistake that it was done, we've created this, we were going to update the report to correct it. So this is a map of your municipality. You have a number of municipal drains here. There's about 12 or 15 sort of drainage areas in total, 30 with smaller drains within it. So there is quite a few in this municipality to deal with. So what basically happened in the future maintenance assessment schedules, and it's pretty easy to do, is when we were going through it, we had linked to the wrong sort of rows and columns, and that error was dragged all the way through. More of a clerical error. Subsequent to that, I've also noticed that there's still a couple of errors in it. One of the benefit assessments rows was shifted one row down, so we had to account for that. I will include the updated to your clerk, so you have updated and corrected schedules for you to review. And same thing with the areas. We divided into sub-watersheds, and we clicked on the wrong sub-watershed to bring it in at different intervals, which is, if you can take a look at the schedules, I'll just pull them up just so you can see. Let me just give a minute here. So flip over. Not right here. So it's pretty easy to do. You have all these columns, and we have basically these refer to another tab, and we have clicked on the wrong one here, flipped over. So that's where sort of the nature of the errors that had occurred in this one. There wasn't any calculation errors in it. It was basically sort of selecting the wrong areas coming in, or the incorrect areas, and the benefits being shifted one up and down. That's probably because we had put one row in at one point and didn't notice that it had all shifted. So again, sort of clerical errors, but they are significant because they affect everyone in the watershed. We're trying to correct what was done. So the point of court revision at this point is to allow landowners to appeal their assessments if they have any concerns. There's no direct cost for this report because it was our error. We're accepting that. So there's no direct assessment. Where it is future maintenance assessments are shifted around. The Corps of Revision can't change the total value of individual. You have to shift from one landowner to the other landowner. In this case, it's the engineer's opinion that we've corrected it to what it should be, and are leaving at this point. So your actions at this point, you can accept the future maintenance assessment schedules as presented by the engineer, or if there's a landowner who comes up and wants to change your assessment and there's justification, you can change it and do everything accordingly. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say that oral submission was from Mr. Neil Morris of K Smart Associates. Thank you, Neil.
Are there any verbal submissions?
Should I just ask the question?
Sure.
Do I have to go to the mic?
Yep.
Please.
We can hear you.
It's probably easier.
I'll come. I'm in receipt of probably 3 or 4 of these things. I'd just like you to explain it to me what these numbers mean.
Okay, I can do that. So let me just.
Do you have a specific property?
Use my name, C. Burns,
Okay.
Where,
down at the bottom.
what drain are you in? Are you in the Massey or Dixon drain?
I'm in both. Oh, I'm in Dixon.
Dixon? Okay, we'll use that one then. So let me just pull up. This goes from Dixon.
Yeah.
Right here? This
Yeah.
one? Okay. So basically, this is your property right here. I'll highlight it just so everyone can see it. You can see it? So what this basically means is each of these columns is sort of a sub-watershed. So the drain is broken into basically smaller pieces. And if there's work that occurs on one of these pieces, this is sort of the percentage of the cost that will be assessed to you. So if, for example, they did work on, we'll call it drain B, in this case, you're not involved with that one, so you wouldn't have an assessment. If they did, for example, this one right here, on branch A, and if they did it in the upper part of branch A, you would be paying 0.994% of the cost of the work. So if there was, if they did a beaver removal or something like that and it cost $100, the portion that you pay of that would be essentially $1.
Okay.
So that's basically 1% of the cost of in both cases, in either interval, this one or the one downstream, you pay you would basically pay 1% of the cost of the maintenance that occurs on the drain.
On that portion. Do you
On that
understand what the
portion.
interval is?
Pardon?
Do you understand what the interval is, means?
I don't understand any of those numbers.
Okay. Neil, go back to the watershed plan.
Okay. So this right here is the watershed for the Dixon drain.
Right.
So basically, when the rain falls, anywhere within this dashed line, basically the water flows to this one of these dot dash lines down here. So just the natural lay of the land, that's what a watershed is. It's an area that all the water that would fall from the sky eventually makes it down to one of these dot dash lines.
Can you start by
Forget that.
intervals to show them what interval 1 is, interval 2, 3, 4?
Yeah. So we've broken it into, that's the big watershed, and we've broken it into smaller watersheds. So another one is this one right here. And this is for drain B. So if water falls on this property, it makes its way to here and then eventually flows down. So, but if your land is up here, it doesn't make it to that one, so you don't pay for branch or drain B. So you only pay for where your land
Okay, my
drains
property's northwest in section 27.
right here.
No, right beside that,
Right here.
right there.
Yeah, so you're only paying for basically the portion of your land that flows to this system. And so if they do work anywhere along where my mouse is going right along here, you'd only be paying for basically 1% of the cost of whatever.
So basically, anything east of where it exits, where the Dixon drain would be, I don't have to pay, or 1% of.
Yeah, so if any work happened on drain B or drain C, you wouldn't pay for that. You only pay for on this drain A.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, and we broken it into intervals because more water comes in at different sections, so it's easier for the municipality to allocate the costs appropriately. And that's basically because the Drainage Act says if you're not contributing, if your land doesn't contribute water to the drain, you don't pay for the maintenance for it. So we've already made it a little bit easier for the municipality. We've broken it into these smaller sub-watersheds, so it's easier for them to do the work. So again, like I said, if they do work along here, you'd be paying 1% of the cost of work of beaver dam removal or something like that, or brushing or whatever is needed.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions?
Is that good, Kaz?
That's it for me. I don't have any problems with the reporting.
Any other questions? That's how it works.
Thanks for explaining it, Neil.
No problem.
So be it resolved that the Court of Revision recommends the engineer's report for the Massey Drain and the Dixon Drain dated June 1st, 2022 be adopted as presented by the engineer. Could I have a mover? Dale. Second, all in favor? Carried. All parties of the drain will receive a written notice of the court's decision, which will include additional information on the process to appeal the decision, if required, to the Ontario Drainage Tribunal. Be it resolved that the time is 6:18 and the court of revision be adjourned. Have a mover?
I'll move that.
Any second?
All in favor?
Carried.
Thank you, Kaz.
Do you want to explain the timeline? For the next step?
The next step. So you have, what is it, 40 days for anyone to appeal to the tribunal. If they don't appeal to the tribunal, the municipality gives third reading to the bylaw that was presented. So it goes through that.
We don't do the third reading tonight.
No, because you need to give an opportunity if anyone wants to. Well, technically, no, we appeal because no one appealed at this meeting, but
Yeah.
it's still a process.
It's a process.
Yeah, okay.
And if they want to, I guess they can go to the referee, but.
We'll cross that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Neil.
No problem. Yes, we are done.
We're done with the
Unless you have anything else you want to ask? No problem. You're welcome. Any other problems with drain chat?
Let's see when the rain's over.
And I'll make sure the clerk knows it's once it's done.
Thank you very much, Neil. Okay, be it resolved that this council meeting be reconvened for regular business. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Kevin and Pat. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, be it resolved that the attached check register for the month of October 2022 totaling $1,168,000, 991 cents be approved as paid. Does anybody have any questions before we move this? Everybody's looked at it? We'll ask for a mover and a seconder then, please. Pat and Cheryl. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next. Be it resolved that the attached 2022 municipal election accessibility report be accepted. Do we have a discussion on that? Moved by Pat, seconded by Cheryl. Are there any questions on that? Everybody understands? All in favor? Thank you. Yeah, I'll figure it out by the end.
So the next item is the meeting schedule for November. Normally, there would be a meeting on the 23rd, but because the new term of council commences on the 15th of November, and the inaugural meeting is not until December 6th, we, just so it's formally canceled, the one from November 23rd.
Everybody understand what Ann just explained? Okay, be it resolved that the regular council meeting of November 23rd, 2022 be canceled. Mover and a seconder, please. Kevin and Pat. All in favor? Thank you, carried.
And the next item is, that I have is, we've always asked council for a day off with pay as in lieu of a Christmas bonus. So I'm just asking if council was so inclined, if December 23rd, they would be willing to give staff this day. And it's always very much appreciated.
And December 23rd is a
It's
Friday,
Friday,
preceding
yes.
Christmas. Any discussion on this at all? Think good. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Pat and Edie. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
I'll let Ruth talk about the section 356 applications.
So those are apportionments that have happened throughout the year due to severances, consents for severances. So when a property owner may come to us and say they want the taxes apportioned for that year, they didn't receive the tax bill. So these properties haven't made it to the roll in 2022. So I do get the breakdown of how it should be apportioned from MPAC. So that's what this schedule outlines. So we had quite a few, in 2022 it seemed like there was quite a lot that, it happened right at the end of 2021, so they didn't hit the 2022 roll. So so these were all by request, so that's pretty straightforward if there was any questions.
Has everybody looked at it? Be it resolved that pursuant to Section 356 of the Municipal Act 2001, Property taxes shall be apportioned to the 2022 taxation year as a result of consent for severance as per the attached schedule. Mover and a seconder, please. Okay, Kevin and Pat. All in favor? Carried, thank you.
Okay, so the second one is for our section 357 application. Same thing, it's for reduction in taxes for whatever reason. This one was a little different. If you looked on the application on the treasurer's tax liability portion, my comment was no adjustment because these weren't filed in time. There is a deadline per section 357, and it's a must be received by, which is in my staff report, no later than February, the last day of February of the year after they're applying. Why we received this application is they were perhaps given misinformation from MPAC, because MPAC was there doing another assessment on this property. And then they were directed to the township office to apply for a reduction in taxes. I don't know if they didn't know that these people were well past the deadline, because this was a 2020 fire that happened. So my comments and recommendations are only as per the municipal act. These people then had to apply for a building permit for renovations for their home. Then they also had to apply for a permit for a temporary home, which they followed all of that. Those have been closed. They've been reassessed on all their new renovations, but they did not meet the deadlines for these applications. So that's my recommendation, but it's council's decision. I have no authority to make a decision on this. So I thought they were going to be at the meeting. They had said they wanted to come, but I want you to have all the other background that goes with that, so.
And they were aware that the meeting was here at the arena tonight?
Yeah, it says that on my notice that I sent to them.
Thank you.
So they were aware what my recommendation, I make a little comment on their notice, so they have an idea, because normally they do have an opportunity to be here before council to plead their case of their application, right? So.
Does anybody have any questions for our treasurer?
I just wanted to clarify, so they didn't, if the deadline was February 20th or whatever, but MPAC talked to them after the fact or before, were you given that information? Like,
I don't know, and I'm just going on what they've told me, right? I don't know 100% what happened in the conversation. I've spoke to our account manager at MPAC, and they're speaking to they should just be directed to the township office. They shouldn't say you can go file a section 357 and you'll get a reduction, because they came in July of 2022.
right.
I
Regarding
can't
something
for
from
the
2020.
application. They missed the deadline for 2020, they missed the deadline for 2021. I don't have authority to deny the application.
Yeah.
They had an application filled out and brought it to me, so I accept it and I follow the process as per usual, so.
So the limit is 2 years, is that what you're saying?
No, it has to be filed the next year. Yeah, you can only go back 2 years if it's a gross or manifest error, and then it's a 358. This is dealing with a 357.
Yeah.
So,
It wasn't our error otherwise.
No,
So you would have
no.
2 years to go
Yeah.
to appeal it
Yeah.
if it was
And
our
it-
error.
and it's a sticky thing because it is up to the landowner. I cannot make the application on someone's behalf. Someone can act on their behalf with their permission, but the landowner has to do this application.
Okay. And I stand by your decision.
It's not my decision, I'm
No,
like.
no, but.
I
Yeah,
understand your
it's just, that's per the
Following-
section of,
following
yeah,
the rules.
yeah.
Okay, so that's it for the questions. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 357 subsection 3 of the Municipal Act 2001, property taxes shall not be adjusted. Mover and a seconder, please. Pat and Kevin? All in favor? Thank you, carried. Thank you.
This is the fire report.
Okay. Be it resolved that the fire chief's report for the month of October 2022 be accepted as presented. Everybody had a look at it? Any questions or comments? If not, could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Pat and Cheryl? All in favor? Thank you. Carried. We had a Public Works meeting last week. Be it resolved that the Public Works meeting report of November 2nd, 2022 be accepted as presented. Kevin will move. Pat will second. Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. Carried.
Next is the tree removal.
Okay.
Stuff from the cemetery. If
Okay.
anybody has any questions?
Yeah.
Ruth had worked on this initiative, so.
Okay. Yes, our treasurer looks after the cemetery stuff. River Road Cemetery, there's a pile of trees that are making it unsafe for some of these lots that have been sold. And Ruth's reached out for a couple quotes. And we've got two of them that everybody's seen, I'm sure. One's $1,500 cheaper than the other. Be it resolved that the quote in the amount of $7,000 plus HST be accepted from CNS Forestry for the removal of trees and stumps in the River Road Cemetery. Mover and seconder. Kevin, Pat, any discussion on this?
Are the stumps in the graveyard?
Yeah, they're all in that section. We just put the map, but
Yeah.
we have taken pictures. And number one, it's over $5,000, so I'll need council's approval. But two, we've never removed this many trees at the cemetery all at once. It's
Yeah.
gonna be quite a shock for some people, I think, going in there. But I have had people who own the plots in that section come in to people that are inquiring when that stuff will be, because
Okay.
they're concerned. But I had some, like, that's all this section,
Oh,
all
yeah.
those plots are sold right where all the trees are.
Yeah.
So, and there's older stumps that were there for a number of years. And some of these, everyone, I'll pass these around, but see, like, stumps that remained.
Oh, yeah.
So then we quoted, those existing stumps need to be gone, and then the trees that we're moving, the stump removal has to happen for those as well.
So they'll
It's
grind
quite a
the
big
stumps.
job, yeah. So
Okay.
it's a removal of.
Any other questions for Ruth? Okay, all in favor then of this quote of $7,000? Carried, thank you. Yes, please.
So, Town of Espanola reached out. They are eligible for a grant for a public transit initiative. It's a $90,000 grant. And the initiative is providing, it can also contribute an additional $32,000 for a total of $123,425. So in the spring of 2022, the Town of Espanola worked with students from Western University to share a report and feasibility study for a transportation initiative for the Baklashwa Hills, primarily focused on providing transportation for seniors from Sables-Spanish Rivers, Baldwin, and Narren and Hyman for medical appointments in Espanola and Sudbury. Town of Espanola would like to apply for the above-mentioned grant opportunity to purchase an accessible vehicle that would be intended to provide transportation for seniors, primarily for accessing services in Espanola and potentially Sudbury, with the overall scope to be established amongst stakeholders based on available budget. It's estimated an accessible vehicle similar to the one that Espanola's caravan would be around $100,000. If successful with this application, it will be the goal of the Town of Espanola, working with McLosh Foothills Association and the partner municipalities to coordinate this service on a pilot basis, with the goal of seeking long-term operating commitments from each council after year one. An initial commitment of $8,229.25 is needed to ensure they are able to seek the maximum allocation under this grant program to afford the desired vehicle. Any funds remaining of the total $123,425 would go towards the establishment of the operations such as licensing costs for a driver and other applicable training and any work to establish the logistics of the transportation system. A commitment of understanding regarding the need for future budget resources to pilot this project, if the application is successful, is also requested. Councils should understand that there may be opportunities to seek further financial support under other various grant streams for the operating costs of the new vehicle. It's estimated that the operating costs of a vehicle of this nature could be kept below $100,000 annually, depending on the extent of its operations. This does not count the purchase price of the vehicle, which is what the grant would pay for. The application is to be submitted by November 30th, so support is being requested at this time. So there is a motion to put forward to approve a one-time contribution of the $8,229.25, and then the potential to support this project in the future.
Is there any possibility that it'll go from one vehicle to another vehicle after a year or two, or was that part discussed?
I think that what they want to start, and that the Clockshville Hills, the students that had put together that proposal, it was looking at, start just getting the people to Espanola. And then the caravan, they could either have some kind of a token or pay a nominal fee to transport around, no?
So if I can
Oh, sure, go ahead, yeah.
interrupt, it would be to get them to Espanola at one location, which would be the seniors complex or the hospital.
Right.
From there, they would be allowed to get on the caravan free of charge to wherever they were going. Because the cost at some point will have to be borne by the township, be it a council or the township or our residents. Now, in some cases, their travel grants could be used not to Espanola. If it would wind up being Sudbury, then all the Massey residents would be able to apply a travel grant. So we have to figure out how we're gonna pay for this.
I mean, there's no guarantee that this application that the town of Espanola is going to submit will be approved, but they need that support from the area municipalities in order to submit their application.
I think it's a pretty critical, I think we really need to do this. We ran into situations a few summers past where we had dialysis patients here that couldn't make it for their appointments, and we relied on volunteers. In the end, our ambulance service did it without anybody getting billed for anything. I mean, we made it work, and I think as our population ages, this is something we really need. If it's, even if it's just a dentist appointment or an appointment at the opticians in Espanola, or your doctor's appointment, or an x-ray. And it can even be done, it says to Espanola, but let's say a Wetwood resident or a Walford resident needed to come to the Massey Clinic. It works the same way, It's transportation for our seniors, and basically medical. But I mean, the Sudbury thing is a big deal. And if we can get that far, then that's the ultimate goal.
And our residents don't have enough distance to travel to be eligible for Northern Travel Grant, just to go to Espanola.
No,
And Sudbury's
no.
another,
No.
Sudbury's another story.
Sudbury would qualify for the Massey and Walford people.
So I'm
Doesn't
assuming.
qualify for Webwood.
Oh, it doesn't?
If you're a Webwood, you don't get a
Oh,
travel grant.
sorry
Is
to
that
hear that.
right? Just at that.
Just at that point,
You have
okay.
to go to Massey and then you
So it sounds like a schedule is going to be critical then.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how we pay for it, and however many times a week it will happen. And there was even talk of scheduling, like you said, scheduling so that people can book ahead. Because we don't want it running for nothing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we talked about each resident who used the van, paying a nominal fee,
Yeah,
which, that's something that they could afford.
yeah. That would be the easiest way. Then
Yeah.
if you got a travel grant, when you deal with it yourself.
Yeah, right.
Type of thing. But what that amount would be is, we haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
And would this be through the La Planche Woodville
Yes.
Association?
Yes.
And are all the neighboring townships all involved, or at this point, we don't know?
Well, this has been sent out. to
He's,
them
yeah,
as
he's
well.
reached out to
Yeah.
each of those. Their next meeting, the other two municipalities don't meet until the 15th of November
Oh, okay.
with the new council. So we're kind of, because we don't have another meeting until the
Yeah.
6th of December, and his deadline's the 30th. So
30th.
that's why we're looking at it now.
Okay, any other, Cheryl,
No, I think it's a great idea.
any further discussion?
In principle, well,
Oh,
I mean, we
absolutely.
can work out the fine tuning later, but.
Yeah, and this is something I think throughout our whole term has been
Yeah.
talked over.
Yeah.
Discussed
Yeah.
on our
We've
wish
worked at it,
list.
yeah.
The last several years.
Yeah, and those students from Western University, they just hit the nail on the head, and came up with the program that we needed.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you, Pat. Okay, if there's no further discussion, be it resolved the council endorses the grant application to be submitted by the town of Espanola to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Public Transit Stream, and the council further approves the one-time contribution of $8,229.25 based on the amount maximum allocation available to the town of Espanola under this stream, and this amount being the required municipal contribution divided evenly between the townships of Baldwin, Nairn and Hyman, Sables-Spanish Rivers, and the town of Espanola for an overall municipal contribution of $32,917. Be it further resolved that should the application be successful, council approves in principle appropriate resources within its annual budget for the operating costs of an accessible transit vehicle to be negotiated on mutually agreeable terms between the mentioned partners. And I have a motion for that, please. Kevin, seconder, Pat? All in favor of that? Great. Carried. Let's keep our fingers crossed on this one, folks.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot of potential.
It was even mentioned during that discussion that we had, that, like, they would be allowed, if they had time, to get buy groceries. And they could bring their groceries home with them on the van if there was room.
That would be up to them, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, once in Espanola, they could enjoy the services of the
Yeah.
care.
The only thing that we have to do is figure out some kind of a route and a schedule
For
for
pickup.
Massey,
Yeah,
to pick up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Webwood, Massey, Walford.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, Lee Valley is not gonna be able to pick up on that.
But if they could get a ride out to town.
To the
That's-
staging
that's
area.
right.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
The Massey Clinic
Yeah.
or somewhere where they can stay warm and
Yeah.
out of the weather?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the arena roof, so at last meeting, we had reviewed the quote to repair the roof came in at $677,000. Because council is in restricted, period of restricted authority, you couldn't approve that, it was over budget. What the contractor is willing to do is break the cost of the repair in half. They'll do half now. They've also removed the gutters and the downspouts, which was a savings of $105,000. Those can be added at any time later. The cost would be $286,350. We budgeted $243, so this is within your scope to be able to approve. They're willing to do half, the worst half, and they did speak with the Parks and Rec coordinator, so they'll probably do the area over the ice, because that's where they're having the most trouble.
West End.
And they'll stabilize the remainder at no cost. They'll come back in the spring and finish the other half of the roof, holding the pricing that they have given now. So I have a motion just to accept that.
Everybody understands that? And option one, just for the sake of our audience, was a matter of just a quick patch up, whereas option two was explained by the engineer that there was some rotting wood as well as some construction that was done improperly, and that company's out of business, so we have nobody to go back on. So option two was chosen by the majority of council to get it done right once and for all. And I do believe the other discussion on that was that the insulation value or factor would be increased as well. Okay, be it resolved that we accept the attached proposed date, November 3rd, 2022 from Duro Roofing for repairs to the roof of the Massey District Community Center and Arena. Mover and a seconder, please. Pat? And Edie, thank you.
Do we have a time date on the?
So they will have these repairs done by, I think it's the 15th of December.
Oh, good.
And, yeah, December 15th is the phase 1, and then the final by June 30th of next year.
Good, thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion? Okay.
No, just for information purposes, we did collect insurance.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it'll offset some of that cost.
Great, okay. If I could have a show of hands then for this motion, please. Carried, thank you.
Next is consent files 2203 and 04 as applied for by Brian Lenson. The purpose of the consent is to provide for 2 new lots in the rural zone. Screening of our municipal plan shows that there's no agricultural activity within 500 meters of the subject property. It is subject to municipal drains, the Massey and Dixon drain, so they'll be required to do the section 65 report. There's no municipal servicing for water supply, private sewage disposal services are required. Proposal is compatible with adjacent land uses. There are no identified features on M&R mapping. Screening questions of Ministry of Culture mapping related to known archaeological sites and built heritage resources indicate no features to protect. Ministry of Transportation is not applicable. With Northern Development in mind, the application is not within an area of significant planning interest. When we look at our official plan designation in rural area, residential uses are permitted to include seasonal and permanent residential uses. The lot size conforms to the official plan. Section 3.19.1, applications for sensitive land use within 50 meters and 300 meters of a main Huron Central rail line should be accompanied by an acoustical study. This application indicates a setback of 300 meters. Under our zoning, section 5.18 is the rural zone. Residential and seasonal use is permitted, access by year-round maintained municipal road, cattle road. Section 4.20.1, the setback from a Highway 17 or rail line is determined by a noise and/or vibration study if such is required by council. Due to the existing residential use of the surrounding properties, council may deem it appropriate to waive this requirement. And we've done that in the past with the consent application on River Road for the school. They're within that same area, but there's houses in that area. So. Circulation was done in the roundabout on October 11th. The adjacent landowners within 60 meters, Hydro 1 Planning Division and CPR Railway were all notified. There were no concerns with any agency.
Any further discussion? Okay. Be it resolved that consent application file numbers C-22-03 and C-22-04 as applied for by Ryan Ledsam be provisionally approved on this 9th day of November 2022. The land in subject application is composed of land in the township of Salter, section 26, parcel 2618, Cattle Road, Massey. The purpose of this consent is to allow for the creation of 2 new lots in the rural zone. They are hereby provisionally approved with the schedule of conditions attached thereto. I have a mover on that. Cheryl? And a seconder, please. Edie? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
The next is a validation of title for Massey Riverview Development. So I guess when this was originally registered, and I had to go back and take a look at the original file, and I actually had Kim come in and help me because she was involved and what happened is the certificate of official that was given for these consents, the legal description was amended. On title is the original certificate, which has an incorrect legal description. So when it was transferred originally, it contravened the planning act. So this is just a correction. The consent happened correctly. All the paperwork was, and it conforms to our official plan, the zoning, all that was correct, but it's just an error with the certificate that was registered. So this is to correct that.
Does everybody understand that? Okay. Be it resolved that council approves the attached validation certificate for property described as Lot 10, Plan 53M-11614, together with Part 4, Plan 53R-18736, Caldwell Street, Massey. Have a mover for that, please. Pat. And a seconder, please. Kevin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay.
That's all.
Is that it for our regular business?
That's unless somebody has something else.
Does anybody have anything? Is there anybody out in the audience that wishes to say anything? Everybody fine?
Well, I'd like to take this time to present to the outgoing members of council, this is their last meeting, just a certificate of appreciation for the hard work that they've done over the last few years. Councilor Rivers, one for you.
Thank you very much, Ann. Thank you.
And Councilor, or Mayor Gamble is not here, I had one for him, and Councilor Nat Chutney. That's all I have.
And that's it for tonight, folks. Okay, so that's for moving for that.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the time is 6:52 p.m. and this meeting be adjourned until the next regular meeting or call of the chair. Who wants to move that? Kevin? And Pat? All in favor? Carried. Thank you much, everybody, for all the participation and cooperation we've had through this 4 years.